Hey, what's up, y'all, man? This is Yeah Man the podcast, episode 11, man. Today we have a local filmmaker here today. His name is YeahManThePodcast, and my fellow hosts are Ben Newsom and Jeanette, the Asian sensation.
Hi.
And just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of start out making movies and been a music director, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
all the above. Man,
Okay.
well, first I want to say thank y'all for having me on the show. Like, I'm honored that anybody would be, interested in anything I have to say. So thank y'all. I appreciate that.
We gotta make sure we support our local talent.
And the support is real. Thank you. But a little bit about myself. My name is YeahManThePodcast. I'm born and raised here in San Antonio, Texas. East side by way of Lakeside, Texas. So, been around here all my life. I know these streets. I know this world a little bit like that. So, started off in the entertainment industry, dancing and rapping. Had a group named Texabama with my brothers Tony Mayhem, TOS, and Gotti Peas. Rest in peace, Gotti Peas. That was in my younger years. And throughout my whole time making music and doing shows, I love performing. I always had an interest in being behind the camera. That is something that I always wanted to do. And even when I was young, I would direct my cousins and my sister in little plays and things like that and have them perform them for the family. So I was always, my cousin calls it being bossy.
Right.
I call it directing.
It's pre-TikTok.
Yeah, right.
Pre-TikTok.
Right. So, but I graduated from doing music with Texabama, and once we stopped doing that and everybody started doing their own little thing, I moved on into video making.
Right.
Got behind the camera and I started making music videos for people. I actually did my first music video for Texabama. So actually a little bit before Texabama stopped, I was already starting to pick up the camera and do work behind the camera. So did one of my first films actually with Texabama. It was a little short film, just to kind of get my feet wet. It was like a music video film, but it was 7 minutes, and it kind of gave me my first little taste of filmmaking.
Right.
But fast forward from there, started getting into 48-hour film festivals around town. I actually started going to some acting classes, not so much so I could learn how to act, but to learn how actors want to be talked to, how they want to be handled, so to speak, and how a director can best communicate with their actor and get across the intent that the actor is needing to have for the certain scene or whatnot. So started getting my feet wet and meeting a lot of people, and one of the people I met, who has been a key factor in my career as a filmmaker, is Mike L. Jackson. Cool. And Mike L. Jackson is and I'm just talking. Feel free to cut me off at any time.
I'm interested in what you're going to say.
Listen, go on.
So Michael Jackson is a filmmaker from San Antonio. Legendary in San Antonio because he's been doing his thing around here for a long time. Graduated from a San Antonio high school. I can't remember which right now, but he's born and raised here. Well, not born here, but he was raised here.
Right.
So local product that I was able to latch onto and ended up being assistant director on 2 of his short films, Solomon's Dilemma and Cost Effective.
But see, what I always liked about you was real humble. You know what I mean? And that's why I was like, man, I gotta have this dude on the show, man. Because it was just like, when people are humble, you want to explain to them what they do. And you said you won an NAACP award?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. So here in 2019, I had just put out my first film, which was called Free Word Moment of Impact. And Free Word Moment of Impact is it's based on a future where poetry and other forms of expression have been deemed illegal. So people have started selling poetry in the streets like drugs.
Mhm.
And so that's my first film, actually my first series.
Okay.
We'll be actually working on part 2 in that series, releasing that next year. But based off of that film, I was able to get into a national competition with the NAACP and was one of 3 finalists chosen to compete in a national convention that they had held here in San Antonio in 2018. And they had what they called a NAACP and Ford short film cinematic competition. It's a lot of words, so I have to slow it down.
Okay.
So, with that competition, I was competing against a director from New York and another director from Texas. And I ended up, I was blessed to be able to win that competition. And the film can actually be seen online right now, actually on my website at goodvisuals.com. Ding.
Try to tag that into YouTube.
Yeah, that's
Once
where
we
I
figure
pointed.
it
That's
out.
where you put that.
Once
So,
we figure out how, we're gonna tag that.
but you can see the film is called The Conference, and it stars local talent T. Rochelle and Paul Wilkerson, as well as Scotty Walker.
Okay.
And very talented individuals. They're award-winning actors, as I say, because the film won.
Right.
So, but it's about a young man who decides to pass out poetry in his school, speaking on the atrocities that have happened in America.
Right.
And actually, Paul Wilkerson actually wrote the poem that we used for the film. And it said, I believe in I don't want to misquote the poem, but he just basically spoke on, every man has the right to vote. Everybody is equal except for black men.
Okay.
Except for women when they didn't have the right to vote.
Okay.
Except for Japanese internment camp. So, there's been a lot of things that isn't, the most proudest parts of America's history that we can't sweep under a rug. And so he was just bringing attention to it, and the principal actually tried to shut him down because he didn't believe in it, and he felt that it was causing trouble in the school.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, the parents came in and they talked to the principal, and it ended up being a very powerful piece, and it was about the importance of voting. And so that film could be seen on the website.
So, is there any way you can share the link with us?
Sure.
Okay, so would it be like, we want to share the link, would it be like the whole movie or parts of the movie?
Well, the conference is the whole movie. It's a 5-minute film. It's
Okay.
It's a short film.
Okay.
We were given 2 days to write it, 2 days to shoot it, and 2 days to edit it.
So,
Oh, wow.
Dang.
right.
So
Wow,
That's intense.
it's hard for
we had to make it happen. Yeah.
So did you, like when you direct films, was that your story or you just kind of, how did that kind of come together? 'Cause I like that.
What was the inspiration?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Actually, I was still fresh off of free work. And poetry, it speaks to us in so many more ways than just the words that you hear at that moment. And so I'm deep into poetry. I like poetry a lot. And I try to use that art form to help express the art form that I'm in, which is filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because it allows you to get deeper with your imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the story I came up with myself.
Okay.
That one I came up with myself. I wrote that one.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
But so based on that film and winning the competition, we were provided with a budget to expand on the film. And what the NAACP and Ford challenged us with was to expand on that story. And so what I wanted to know was why was this child so passionate at such a young age?
Right.
And so I started asking questions and ended up coming with a story about it's a black family. The mother has been a cop for 19 years. Her oldest son is killed by another cop on the same police force. And he subsequently gets off for the murder as what normally happens. And the story actually picks up on her first day back to work, and it deals with the emotions that she has to go through. You know, does she want to even be a cop anymore? This has been her dream. She's always done this. Her husband feels a certain way. Her family feels a certain way. She has a younger son that she has to take into consideration. You know, and then she ends up going to work and she runs into the guy that killed her son. And she gets to have a conversation, putting it lightly, with him. And so it's an emotional film. It's a drama. It's a 30-minute film. So it's a kind of a mini feature. It was co-written with Mike L. Jackson. So, you know, it was in association with J-Rad Productions and Idle Time Cinema. So, and have had great reviews from it.
That sounds interesting. I want to watch that.
I've never actually had a interaction with a filmmaker, so I don't really know much what to ask you. But going off of that, what are the films that have you decided to make since that film, or do you have anything in mind right now? Are you working on something, or what are you currently doing?
Currently, and yes, I would love for you to see the film as well. We actually, and I'll get to that question in just a second. We actually had an online premiere last week, last Thursday, and we had such a huge response from that we're going to be scheduling another online premiere. Awesome. As well as if you live, now that is nationwide. Now we had people from Los Angeles all the way to New Jersey that logged in, and we could see where they logged in from. So we had a nationwide audience, you know, from the windows to the wall, I like to say.
So on your site?
On our site, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to watch it.
And, well, the film isn't on site. It was scheduled.
Oh, okay.
So we promoted it, you know, as if it was in the theaters.
Right.
You know, as an independent, I have to figure out a way to be creative and make people interested.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do
And
that?
so they're coming out here and talking to interesting people like yourselves.
That works.
Social media
Yeah.
is a mother.
Having great
Like,
stories, being very professional with your work.
Okay.
You know, and marketing it and promoting it in a way that is as creative as you can make it.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to get as many people talking about it as possible.
Okay.
So, how much is that on Facebook? I've seen it on Facebook, and I had mentioned before through real estate,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was just like, man, it seemed like he's so humble. Where it's like, man, I gotta see what he's doing. You know what I mean? And most people would just be flashy with it, and you be like, you know, whatever. But you were so humble with it, and I was just like, man, I gotta see what he's doing, man. And do you promote most of it on Facebook, or how much is Facebook, or how much is other social sites, or how much is your website?
Social media is a great deal of marketing. I mean, be it Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't do Twitter as much. I'm trying to get better at it, but I haven't really mastered that one yet.
Yeah.
Now they have TikTok that the kids are doing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them, but we do a lot of marketing through social media, word of mouth, getting out and just talking to people. You know, I haven't met too many people that I, you know, am unable to speak with. You know,
That's how I met you.
Yeah.
What's hilarious how I worked there. So.
Social media is a really, really powerful tool to get your word out there.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you get one person to share it with all their people, who will share it with all their people.
Yeah.
You know, so social media is like the best advertising.
I can't beat word of mouth.
Right.
Now, you may not, when you meet somebody, you may not remember that person. You may not remember what y'all talked about. You may not remember what clothes they had on, but you will remember how that person made you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you will say, man, I don't know what we talked about, but I don't know, something ain't right about that, man. I don't know. Or, oh man, they good people. I just know that when we talk, I felt something about it, we good. Like, so, word of mouth is going to travel.
That's why I was just like, when you said humble, like, I let you introduce yourself, because I'm like, man, I can't do that, man, no justice, you know? Because you do, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stuff that you did, and I thought that was cool, man.
So, and then something else, and I totally skipped over it, is, so one thing with the film Policing, and I don't know if I even mentioned the name of the film is Policing, a film by YeahMan D. Wayne. The film actually premiered at the 2020 Image Awards, the NAACP 2020 Image Awards this year in February, prior to the pandemic and everything being shut down. So they actually showed it in the Museum of Tolerance there.
So let me ask you this, because I know I had wrote several articles for the REI Club. So when you start with NAACP, are they kind of looking for movies from you? So like once you make a movie, they like, okay, what's the next movie you're gonna make, or you over? How does that work?
I have a relationship with them now.
Okay.
Being that the pandemic happened so soon to the release of it with them, I think it's a little bit in limbo right now.
Okay.
There hasn't been a lot of talk, but that's better than, hearing the opposite of, okay, we're good. So sometimes no news is good news. We'll see. It's not going to prevent me from moving. I do have a lot of stuff coming up. I'm still going to be promoting Policing and the music that goes along with Policing. We have a song that is featuring myself, Vocab Sanderson, who is San Antonio's poet laureate.
Okay.
Yes.
I love her.
Yeah, she's dope.
amazing.
She's dope.
It's like, Glow?
Yes.
Glow is awesome
Yes.
too.
Glow actually performed at, when we did the premiere for Free Word, Glow and Vocab actually performed there as the premiere.
Wow.
As well as, so also on the song of Policing is Little Aubrey, who is a San Antonio rapper as well, and his music is dope. Like his opening line in the song is black man, you a king in my eyes, all praises to you. And I haven't, heard a song that made you feel that much power when you rap it.
Right.
And I come from the UGK era. You know what I'm saying? Like, we was banging back then, you know what I'm saying? But the way he brought that song in, I was and that song is also on the website, on the Policing page. The song is entitled Policing. I was actually riding with my youngest son, and he's 12, fixing to be 13. Okay. And, I got a 64 Chevy, give my dog a white drop top, pearl tank job is hard. Like, we know that. Like, I rap that to my son. But to be able to turn to him and say, black man, you a king in my eyes, all praises to you.
It means something special.
It means something.
It means something. Yeah.
It makes you feel something.
Makes you feel that pride.
It makes you feel that pride. Yes, exactly. So the song is that powerful.
Let me ask you this, sorry to cut you off. Let me ask you this. What do you think about the state of rap right now? Yeah, let's be real. I know you was an artist. Take it back. Take it back.
I think it's a young man's game.
Okay.
Music is everybody.
Right.
But I think we're getting to a point in rap where rock got to.
Okay.
So what I'm meaning is, now there's soft rock, there's hard rock, there's heavy metal, there's grunge rock, there's, there's like, like they got all these different categories. That's because when they started, it was just rock and roll. Elvis Presley was rock and roll. Elvis Presley is not rock and roll. And what I grew up thinking of what rock and roll was. But that's because they didn't know what to call it yet at the time. Right. Just like with us, they didn't know what to call it yet at the time. You still hear people say, "Oh, rap, that's just all gangster rap." No,
it's not.
There's and we could get deeper into the industry because they destroyed all of the actual categories in rap for a while. We just now getting back to categories being in rap because at one time we had groups like who was it? Tennessee. Tennessee. Arrested Development. We have Public Enemy. But then we did have NWA. And we did have Ghetto Boys. And we did have 8Ball and MJG. You know what I mean? Like, we had a wide variety of music. You had gangster music. You had music if you just wanted to ride. If you wanted to be, hood in the bitch tonight, we finna put on some, some Fifth Ward boys. This is gonna go down. Like, we had them. But then for a while there, it seemed like in the industry, like they all started pigeonholing it.
Right.
And it all started sounding alike because that's what was being commercially successful. It wasn't that any of our tastes changed. We didn't stop liking other kind of music. But when corporations get their hands into businesses and they get these study groups that tell them, well, if you talk about this more, this appeals more to this market. And it takes away.
It's kind of like Soulja Boy. When he started, he wasn't cussing and all that, and he just kind of into that.
You know, Soulja Boy is just a phenom. I mean, he's just a whole movement to himself.
Yeah.
That's crazy, you know. Hey,
All
folks was doing it. Kids was doing it. Old folks was doing it. Everybody. Now they all on that.
But sort of crazy, yeah.
But he came in and he created his own lane, and he branded himself. You know, still to this day, you already know who you talking about.
Crazy.
You already know, and that's what branding does. Branding is also AKA brainwashing, because that's in marketing. They say, what is it? If somebody hears something 3 times or more, they get used to it.
Right.
They remember it.
Right.
Brainwashing. So once you learn how to market your product and you latch onto your niche, where as many people is gonna hate you as is gonna like you.
Right. They love to hate you.
You're gonna make money off your haters and your supporters. Look at Trump.
That's what I was just about to say. Like Trump be like, "You're my favorite hater."
Like, as a person and morally, I'm not down with Trump. And there is no but or no however to follow that.
Right.
He is a marketing genius.
Extremely.
Now, he might be marketing hate,
But he's a genius.
but he's marketing it in a way that's making us talk and making it stay in the front of our conversation. Every
Staying
room
relevant.
you walk in, he's staying relevant. And you can
Not
take lessons
relevant.
from that. Now, you can't take lessons from him as a man and his choices he makes as a man.
Right.
I don't agree with none of that. But, I mean, dude, I don't know how he could tweet as much as he does. I got real work to do, and he's the president of the United States. I can't keep up with him.
Do you think he really tweets or he got like a group?
No, I think he really doesn't.
I think he's.
I think he really does
I think he really
I
doesn't.
I think
If he actually had a group of people that was doing it,
he was the
most of that stuff would not be coming out. Most of that stuff that comes out would not be
the
coming
group
out.
of people that he has around him, they're doing the presidential shit that he should be doing. He's like, read through that peace treaty with Iran. I'm gonna tweet something real quick.
I guess we'll go to politics
Talk
real
smack about
quick. But
somebody.
have you heard of the guy named, I think it's Roger Stone?
Roger Stone?
Yeah, you seen that movie? Man, you seen that movie?
Which movie is this?
It's Get Me Roger Stone. It's on Netflix.
No, that sounds like an interesting documentary. I haven't seen it.
Man, you gotta see that, man. A friend of mine told me to see that. Man.
Did you follow that up with the documentary on Fox News about Roger Ailes?
Okay.
Because if you and see what you got to pay attention to, all this shit they put out there, they purposely put it out there.
Okay.
What you got to get used to is context clues, because it's just like in a news article. They're going to tell you all the fluff in these first 4 or 5 paragraphs. The truth is going to be in that 7th and 8th paragraph real quick, and then the 9th, 10th, and 11th paragraph is just a wrap up of all the top paragraphs.
So the truth is in the middle.
So what you got to look at is the stuff that they can't just say something and try to twist it. So start looking at pictures. Look at connections. They say follow the money, right?
Right.
People that say follow the money never actually follow the money. Because when they follow the money, they find out, oh shit, that goes all the way back up to the top of the person that I work for. They don't follow the money. Media, one thing that Donald Trump that he's winning with is demonizing the media, which a lot of people have already been doing and that we haven't trusted for the longest. Nobody in public eye has just come out and said it as much as Trump has. Now, why is CNN red? Who do they mostly represent? Democrats.
Right.
What color are Democrats?
Red.
Blue.
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 What's the color of Fox News?
Blue.
Blue.
Who do they mostly represent? Red. It's just all. It's mind games. It's mind games. It's all to just keep you wrapped up in paying attention to whatever it is they want you to pay attention to at that moment.
They just big gangs. That's all they are. They're big gangs.
It's true. It is very true.
They're professionalized gangs in the sense that if you have a higher up person, then I don't know, Cooter Brown over here in the jail cell, but you got old boy over here in the state representative
With real power.
With real power, he's gonna be able to get something done.
Right.
Other than Cooter hit with his cell phone and snuck in by one of his hoes. Hey, yeah.
Why gotta be one of his hoes?
Okay, he be one of his
She might
hoes.
have loved him.
He might stuck in his.
She might have loved
He
him.
might have stuck in his ass. I mean, but I'm just saying. He like
Or the apple pie was in the bottom of the apple pie.
Apple pie. So yeah, but I mean, I guess my point.
Not a good lunch, lady.
I guess my point to that is just to what you said. It's real power is up in the government, and then you have street power, which have mostly. Were you familiar with Dover back in the day?
Dover.
Dover down the street.
The city?
No, Dover neighborhood.
Really was?
Yes, before they built the Dover, they had Dover and then Meadowbrook. I lived in Meadowbrook when it was first built, and then they had Dover, and then all of a sudden everybody in Dover went to jail. Right? And then it kind of got a little better. Then Dover got built, and all those OGs got out, and then the kids started, then becoming more hood again. I was in Johnson when it was, I guess you could say, the last of the real gangsters. I wasn't necessarily there for that, all that. I was 05, but I just stay out of that shit. I was like, I ain't got time for it. But what I noticed is that a lot of these kids nowadays, they think they're such gangsters. And I said, now, let me ask you a question. Now, I asked them something else. I don't know that. I said, man, if I was a teenager if I was a teenager now, and knowing shit I know that I knew back then, I'd have beat you up. Cause I'd have beat you up. And I'm not even in that kind of contest, but it's like, you can't sit here and claim something. I guess the Crips and Bloods, they call themselves, but they over here, you call yourself a Crip, but you weren't red. The Judson is what? Red and gray, right? So why would you do the thing? You can't wear that. So it's just a lot of these kids that they claim it's something, it's like you just don't know. Like, cause a lot of them, they get hurt.
And on that topic in particular, there's a lot of reasons that go into that. Because we can talk about so many different angles. One being that people want to belong to something.
Right.
People don't want to be left out.
Right.
And nowadays, I think it's probably more difficult to be a teenager now than it was when we were younger.
It is.
Because when we were younger, we could technically go home and cut off the world. We didn't have to watch TV. We didn't have cell phones. Our pagers weren't sending us messages of hatred and social media and all these fake images of all these, beautiful people, and we're trying to keep up with all that. We could go home and shut it off and watch DuckTales.
Screw the duck.
Hey, we was good. And even if, you was still in the streets at that time, it's still different than the way it is now.
Right.
Now, see, it's hard to say. See, one thing that I don't really like is when people say, well, they not real. Because real is in context. Because we never really taught anybody what real is. In a lot of ways, in what we have taught as what is real is a very selfish way of looking at life.
So that's an eye of the beholder? Eye of the beholder?
Because real in a lot of people's eyes is, nigga, I got 2 bitches, nigga, I got, I'm moving weight over here, I got me a car on some real thing, I'm a real ass nigga, you say something, I'm gonna whoop your ass. Alright. Now what about the other side of being real and being real with the people that are real with you? And if you have a woman and you want her to be 100% with you, you got to be 100% with her. That's also real.
Okay.
That's what's showing what a real man is. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's different definitions of what being real is for one. So that's out there already confusing people.
Right.
You know, who am I trying to impress?
I think
Which
like,
they're always thinking they gotta impress somebody.
I think now people are not rude. You know what I mean? Whereas like with somebody in the 90s, you know, they was more like they could be hood, gangs, whatever you want to call it, but they was respectful. And then they had a line, and then you cross it, and it was kind of like you cross that line, so then I have to, you know, put you in your place. But people now are just disrespectful. And it's like, what's a sad thing, I think, is that you got people our age, and they look at what these kids are doing on Facebook and social media, and they doing it. I'm like, no, shouldn't you be telling the younger people how to act? And
Not to do that. Yeah.
So I remember when Coming to America first came out.
Okay.
And I remember my aunt coming from yeah. She came from Houston, and they had it on a VHS tape, and we all gathered around to watch it. And the scene where she jumps up and she says, "The royal penis is clean, Your Highness." Well, before that scene came on, my aunt paused it and asked me to leave the room.
I remember that. I could not watch
And then
it.
I could come back in afterwards. You know why? Because there was adult jokes and adult conversations, and there was kid conversations. Now, in the age of social media, we are all laughing at the same shit. It doesn't matter if they're cussing in it, if they're showing whatever.
Yeah.
My 13-year-old daughter or 15-year-old daughter, she'd be real upset with me. My 15-year-old daughter, the stuff that comes across her social media algorithm can be the same stuff that comes across my algorithm. And now we're having a conversation. You know, we're looking at that. We're on the same level, but mentally we're on two totally different levels.
Completely different levels.
It's the same thing with the music that they put out there. Do I like the song? Wow. I think it's a good song. I think it's entertaining. I have nothing wrong with the song. I think it's a fine adult song.
Adult song.
It's a fine adult song.
But
I don't want my 15-year-old dancing to it.
Or my 7-year-old niece.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And people be like, yo, but that's real. That's out there. I got no argument for you then if that's the way you see it.
It is real. It is out there, but it doesn't mean that your child needs to be exposed to it.
I respect my mom and dad did not let me listen to Prince when I was. Not when I was raised, you know, he was raised with my grandparents. But I respect that because a kid, when I was like 8 or 9, whatever, you know, it was stuff that I but you know, I like
this finger and shit.
Yeah. I like Prince.
I seriously just
Purple Rain, Purple Rain.
You know, I like Prince though. You know what I mean?
But even though when you're older and you understand, you have an understanding of what they were. Even if you don't think that it was anything too far, you have a respect for what they were teaching you.
Yeah. And I just like nowadays, it's like. You know, like me and Ben talk about this all the time. You got girls in like our age, and they just got no clothes on, you know. And I'm just like, you look on Facebook
You
now.
tell me every day.
You look on Facebook now, and it's like you got more people without clothes than with clothes.
I remember we used to have to hustle, you know, we have to use Mac to the females to get some pictures like that. Now we can just scroll through the timeline and see pictures. I mean, it is a different day and age. You know, there is a lot of things that, you know, I mean, men walk around with their shirts off, and we don't, I mean, so is there a line where was it feminism type thing? Should they be allowed to do it if we do it? You know, all that stuff comes into play. But people love attention nowadays.
They do.
And especially since television, you know, has been invented and it's just gotten more and more, like everybody feels like they have a camera in front of them at all times and they're getting watched.
Nowadays
Like they can hear. They do.
Nowadays you have a camera everywhere.
At all times, your phone. This ain't even a phone, it's a camera.
I feel the cell phone is the worst and best invention ever. I feel like it's.
I agree.
Yeah, because it's just like it's good for what we can do on it, because we filming on this podcast with it for. We had this conversation so we could do this podcast on
On the phone.
but it just, I don't know, like, I don't think none of us mothers was on Facebook Live just showing, everything. 'Cause it's like, I look at some people and I'm like, how do you, I never had to worry about my mom showing everything and then going to school in the 8th grade and like,
Hey man, I saw your mama. I saw your mama.
Hey,
Does your mama know? Make sure your mama for sure, man. She fun. They say you boxing. And gym class.
I think that with the cell phone, when it came with social media and so forth, and then cell phones progressed with the cameras and everything like that. And yeah, it was really cool when it first came out, and everybody's like, oh, I can take pictures of me and my friends and stuff like that, and then it just became more and more extra. And then the thing is like, and what I keep trying to tell my stepkids is like, you need to be careful what you post on social media, what you post on the internet. That stuff is out there forever. Even if you delete it, it's going to be somewhere else, and somebody's going to see it. And that is gonna haunt you for the rest of your life.
And you know the funny thing is, y'all remember Polaroids, right?
Mm-hmm.
You put that big old disc in there and the film. Well, these kids think nowadays that it's a new thing because they have not like little digital cameras. You take the picture and it comes out. It's like that's not new. It's just making a circle. That's a Polaroid.
It's like
what's Polaroid?
It's not new, but it's more advanced.
It's more advanced, but it's now it's
the camera is colored instead of the black and chrome like it used to.
It's like
I've seen a video of showing some kids using a rotary phone.
Oh wow!
Lord.
How that worked out?
Couldn't figure it out.
you turn it and you let it go. You turn it and let it go.
But and I know you're probably 24, 23, something like that. I know Jarnell old as hell.
No, I'm gonna put this out here this one time. I bet you I'm older than all of you.
Then you age very well, man.
I mean,
I'll just.
She got Asian on fashion. So I saw this meme on Facebook, right? You remember that old guy from the Muppets? The old guys. What's the one old guy? He says, you want to scare this generation nowadays? It said, put some kids in a room with a TV with no remote. You gotta turn a little dial, right? Say put it with a rotary phone, and it said instructions in cursive.
Oh,
it's like see how scared they get. Oh my God!
Yeah, it's cursive out of school, right?
Yeah, it's out. It's no longer in school. So
I wrote in cursive, and my nephew was like, "What does that say?"
Kids can no longer read cursive. They don't understand how to use a rotary phone. You gotta turn all the way. It said put them in a room with a rotary phone, a TV with it's a dot, and then I want to take one step further, like put it in with an antenna. With the antenna.
Analog TV.
Analog. So see they get
and give them
a Game Boy.
And give them
Nintendo.
Exactly.
No, the Game Boy without no color on the screen.
Oh.
But Tetris was the best game on it.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. Atari.
No, Coleco. It was a Coleco Vision. Where it was just the thing to go
ding 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 ding.
Nintendo, you had to blow in it.
And then put it on the edge.
Yeah.
And then put it on fast. You gotta get in there.
It might work. Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn it. Hold on.
And then you get mad, you're like, oh, okay, there it goes.
I had Super Nintendo, so I thought it was something.
It got to the point where we played Super Mario Brothers so much, like I hated, if you weren't the first person on that game, that first player was going to beat the whole game. Because you played Super Mario so much, you could go through level 1, level 2, skip to level 4, then you go to level 6, then you skip to level 8. Well, I knew all the shortcuts. You wasn't getting the turn. I'd be 2 hours later like, okay, I'm done.
Hey, the shortcut master, man, was Kareem Good, man.
Oh yeah,
Kareem,
yeah.
he knew all the shortcuts, the Mega Man, Contra.
All the
Earthworm Jim?
yeah, I remember
Earthworm Jim?
Mm-hmm.
He was on Sega though. I ain't have Sega. That was a rich people game, you know?
And you know
Yeah.
what? You know
Shout out to Hedgehog.
Eternal Fighters or something like that.
Hey, don't forget Mortal Kombat.
But Mortal Kombat is a classic.
Hey, but you know what?
Wait.
But you know what? They have those games on PlayStation. They have those games on Xbox. They still have Mortal Kombat. And
You guys will have those.
The funny thing is, if
You're
you
not gonna talk about Double Dragon?
Double Dragon.
Double
Dragon was
you can't get that on Xbox.
But back in the day, or recently, I don't know, it's a couple years ago, I saw that you could go on Facebook and order like an old Nintendo, and they would have all the games already programmed.
My wife got one.
Did she? Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's like 60 bucks. Oh, y'all remember this one?
The little mini one?
Nintendo 64.
You just go through all the games. I was like, I played them for like 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, this is why I stopped. I'm bored already.
Yeah.
It's because we're older now.
I was never a gamer though.
I never.
Like I was a sports cat. Like I like to get out there and hoop or play football or go shoot the BB gun or throw rocks at people. Like
people.
I go dodge the rock.
Somebody knock on your door.
Dodge rock.
You know your son out here hit with a rock, right? He said, "No, his head. That wasn't playing football. That's a rock."
Yeah. No, you know what? True story. So my dad used to always have side hustles going on, right? So he had at some point he had this big diesel truck, and the bed of the truck was open. So it was me and my two cousins, and we convinced my youngest cousin to go build a fort out of these plywood that we found, and we was going to throw rocks at each other. But he had the fort, and we were on the ground with the rocks. So I was like, well, you get the fort, we get the rocks. So, any rocks we throw up there, you get to throw back at us, right? That's fair, right?
Right.
Okay.
He was like, yeah, okay. I was like, we're going to hit him. I seen a hole in the thing. I said, I'm going to aim for it. I ain't never been a pitcher in my life, but I aimed, and I got right in the dead center of that hole. And I threw it. And it got quiet for about 5 seconds. I heard. and all that plywood he had built, he said, poof. Blood rushing down. Hey man.
Oh wow.
Look. And I was like, you okay? Don't tell my mom you alright.
You alright? Walk it off.
Walk it up, put a dirt on it. Hey, say we had some fun though.
Oh my god.
We had some fun though.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
But I grew up in the country though.
Yeah.
Like, we played, what was it, sideline kill? Like, come on, man.
But ain't it bad that all the things we talking about,
None of you kids will ever know about.
Yeah.
never right here.
Yeah.
They never understand. I call this generation more of the gamer inside generation. I said, y'all wouldn't last in the time my day. Back in my day, so my dad used to kick us out on Sunday. And he told me, just recently, he told me, he's like, I kicked y'all out on Sundays by 12 o'clock for a reason, because I want to watch the game. He's like, y'all want to sit there and bother you while the game was on.
And don't be running back in and out.
He said, and don't come back in don't come back in 5 minutes until I get thirsty. So
Water hose.
out the house by about 10 or 11,
Mm-hmm.
and then we come in back about before the street lights. Yeah, remember that street light? Raise the street light, and then by that time he's like, go take a shower, go eat, go to bed.
Yep.
So he was strategic with it. He was like, he's 60. So yeah, he was like,
And it's funny that we all have similar stories. We can all relate to those stories.
Yeah.
And what's yet to be told is the story 30 years from now of how these kids look at their childhood. Because one thing that I talk about is, where in the future are we going to have antiques? Like, is this going to be around in 40 years? Probably not. It's probably going to deteriorate because it's pressed wood.
probably,
You know, but there's still furniture from the 20s because it was made of real oak and this and that. Yeah. We don't have antiques anymore. Everything is perishable.
Or like that lamp right there, or this one right here. My grandmother owned this.
Yeah.
And this is.
They might even own the person that blew the glass.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I don't know, probably 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
It's old. And that one right there, I don't know exactly how old it is, but it's pretty old too. Like,
and it looks very young. They must be Asian.
Yeah. Everything
Now,
I
Ben needs the hell out of
everything
his
I have most in my house is even this couch my grandmother owned. She, deceased, rest in peace. But everything she owned was all pretty much, solid
They were
wood.
built to last.
And they were built to last.
Yeah.
But everything we got now is, that TV I have, that sucker will probably be out in 5 years.
Oh yeah, they built it.
It'll start glitching and carrying on. I'm like, damn, I bought a
Because
TV
if I
now.
built it to last forever, you're never gonna come by from me again.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And that's what they do, man. That's why I kind of hate about this generation now is that I think I was supposed to be born in an earlier generation, but maybe I'm reincarnated or something.
you know what? You
I'm
got
like,
that old man saying, I hate these kids. You goddamn kids nowadays running around with long hair and shit. Cut that damn mother top. What's wrong with you, kid?
Well, damn, wrong with you? Got that mop in your damn
You know
head.
what? But that's the way it's supposed to happen, though.
Right.
Like when I was in school, in the 90s and things like that, like if you would have played some music from the 70s, which was only 20 years prior, I would have said that was old.
Right.
Like, we ain't listening to the OJs no more, Pops. We on UGK.
Right.
But now if I put on UGK, which I'm still jamming, my son is like that. We're not on UGK no more. We on Lil Yachty. You know what I mean?
What's that, NBA Youngboy?
NBA Youngboy. But
That's when you tell him, this is my car.
get out!
This is my car. This is what I listen to.
But that's the way, that it's supposed to happen.
Right.
Because it's supposed to change. They're not supposed to like what we like.
Right.
And it's supposed to be opposite from us. I remember when Tupac was real hot, and he said, if everybody has braids, I'm going to be bald. If everybody's bald, I'm going to have braids.
Okay.
And that's the way the youth see it as well. I'm not going to wear the same hairstyle and wear the same clothes my parents wore. So it's got to change. Now, what we got to do is instead of keep saying, like, I hear so many people say, man, I don't like the youth this, I don't like the music, I don't like this. Who taught them? We was the OGs that taught them.
Right.
Because the OGs above us taught us to be in by the street light.
Right.
Taught us the codes of the street.
Right.
Taught us how to take care of our neighborhood. Now these kids out here wilding and we like, well, what the fuck happened?
You gotta teach them.
And we acting like Trump, like we don't have no responsibility yet.
Right.
And now a lot of us is grown. A lot of OGs is 40, 50. You know what I'm saying? People's coming home from jail. They seeing life differently.
Mm.
And they like, well, damn, we ain't gonna make it as a people if we keep living like this.
And that's what I try to put my niece on game. I'm like, look, you can't be doing all this. I tell her, because she kind of looks up to me as her father figure because her dad wasn't around, 03. She was born in 03. I was 16. I had no idea how to deal with kids whatsoever. So I was mean as hell. I ain't gonna lie. I used to push her over, laugh at her. She fall like get up, you fine.
That's how big brothers is supposed to be.
Don't cry. Stop crying. I'm just crying for her. So, okay. So she's real tough, but she just doesn't. I have to now that I'm a little older, I have to tell her. I had to pick her up from school today. I ain't gonna say why, but I had to pick her up from school today. And I said something. She said yes. She said yes. I said yes. What? Yes, sir. So she knows, she from the time she could talk to now, she knows. I said, yes, what? Yes, sir. So she knows. I teach her and her little sister, both of them are scared of me. Mm-hmm. Both of them. Now, it's not just scared of me because I'm going to put my foot, this left foot right in the ass. But I tell them, I say, hey, look, this left foot, you miss it in a minute, you keep it up.
Yeah.
So they just know, but when I threaten, I say, I'm taking your phone away. Oh, no. So I can't enforce, we were scared to belt.
Yeah.
We ain't have no phone.
Yeah.
But you tell them, I'm gonna take your phone away. Oh, okay. I'll be good. It's just, you have to teach them a different way. And it's just,
but you know what?
I had to learn
You have to know what's important to them.
Yeah, I had to learn that. It's just,
and just being there.
yeah. And
Being there as like being a Spurs fan, right?
yeah.
Tim Duncan wasn't the most vocal leader. He wasn't Kevin Garnett
No,
by far, but he led by example. And that's what it sounds like in a lot of what you're saying right there is, you know, at 16, you didn't know how to do it, but you knew right from wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way you lived your life taught them.
But it just don't seem like a lot of people do that anymore.
They don't.
Chivalry is kind
A
of
lot of it sucks because nowadays a lot of these younger kids aren't being raised by their parents.
Right.
They're being raised by their grandparents, their aunties,
retired.
their uncles, whatever. They're being raised by someone other than their parents. So they're not getting that. They're not getting disciplined, and they're not learning what they need to learn. So, and unfortunately, we as grown-ups are not teaching our children how to be. That's why they are the way they
And
are.
you know, it's not even. See, some people don't like the saying "it takes a village,"
It does.
but
It does,
it really does. At least in my experience, that's been the case. Like I said, I grew up in the country, and now I may not be the country like Middle America country. It's East Side country. It's beer joints. It's pool halls. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just the way it was. But what it was also around there was a community.
And
And
your parents.
they knew my parents. And I was wild. Like I was out there. Like we just did shit sometimes just because we had time of day to do it. There was really no other rhyme or reason to it other than that.
Why you do that?
And I remember one time
We had nothing else.
breaking a whole bunch of glass in the street. I remember just being, just kid shit, right? And I wasn't even by my house doing what I was doing, but my aunt came around the corner and seen me. And we ran. Oh shit, police! We were running. Where am I running to? Home. Guess where she came? She came driving. We had this long driveway. Me and my homeboy, we sitting on my porch. We like, whew, man, I didn't know. We running through the weeds. She go, oh shit, is that her? She driving up. She knew where we went. And she told my mom, she told my dad, we had to take some brooms over there and go clean it up. Like, they made us take responsibility for it. But that's because, as a community, they didn't want us to grow up,
Being disrespectful.
right.
And
Making the
you
wrong
get away with
decision.
it. Yeah, it's like, I can get away with this. And
Because we all have, that's the beauty of being a human being is we have the freedom of choice.
right.
And of being in America, we have the freedom of choice. You can choose right or wrong.
So do you feel like kids nowadays are worse off than us, better than us, not the same?
I think it's the same. I think there's cameras. There's a lot more cameras to see. I think we're getting old and we're not putting up with as much bullshit as we used to. You think about it. Like,
I feel bad for kids these days. They can't get away with nothing.
no, they can't.
Like,
There's a microscope on them.
There's no way to get away with it. Like, there's somebody, some kind of way is going to see what you did and how you did it. And there's no way you can lie about it.
the only thing is how the parents deal with them when they get in trouble, when they do something.
Yeah.
So, if you're not going to if you're not going to hold your kid accountable, then of course they're not going to care.
Accountability is huge.
Yeah.
Accountability is huge.
My niece, how I dealt with her today, so I told her, I didn't yell, I didn't cuss, because I was in the school. I was in the school, and I'm not the yelling cussing type. I'll tell you, I'm disappointed.
That's when you yell and whisper up. Kick your ass.
You see this foot? I was right there in front of the social worker. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to school for social work. She's like, really? I was like, yeah, so we're sitting there talking, and she said something. I said, how long the teacher been out? She said, oh, 2. I said, I need you to stay over there. I was like, you need to stay over there. But when I told her, I said, sit down. She sat right down. So she still has that respect,
Right.
and she has that.
Right.
She knows old school. She said, when I say something, I mean it.
Mhm.
But I didn't go in there. What you do? I'm gonna kick your ass when we get home.
Yeah.
Now we was in school.
You treat her like a person.
I treated her like a person. I said, sit down. But I need you to stay over there. And then when we left, I didn't yell. I didn't used to be at school. I said, I talked to her like a normal person. How was PT practice? Blah, blah, blah. I talked to her. I didn't keep dwelling on it. But I did do this.
Yeah.
Now, one time she got sent home from elementary school. Mine is elementary school. Years ago. She's in high school now. She got sent home for doing some little stupid eraser challenge or whatever. I'm at work. Went back in Valero. I had to leave work. Now I know y'all don't like my money. I'm like, you make me lose my money? You about to give me my money right now. I said, come on out here. Cause after I got my little sleep, you get nap first.
Yeah.
So I was like, come on out here. She said, what you want me to do? I'm here to do push-ups, wall sits.
Yeah.
And then I said, you know what? You come back tomorrow and clean my house. And she said, why is that? I said, because you keep doing this stupid stuff. Because we got kids that watch the show. And then you keep doing this stupid stuff. That's what you're going to keep doing the rest of your life. Is clean your house because you can't get your education. Today, what I make her do, I made her go help the hotel people. It's like, I said, oh, y'all work for her too? She said, yeah, we can have her clean the first one. I said, yeah, keep her for about 2 hours. Then call me.
Mm-hmm.
They never called me, but so yeah. Veronica, whatever your name is, I need you to give me a call like I told you to. I left you my number. But anyways, I told her, I said, same thing I told you when you was in elementary school. You're gonna keep cleaning houses because you can't get your act together. I was like, you need to do what you need to do.
And it's important that they think of their future. I have a homegirl who she has a young son, and she was like, he's 13, and father ain't around as much, and she was like, I don't know how to raise a young man. I'm a woman, and I was like, well, I said, what you need to do, go home, punch him in the chest. Hard just right in the chest.
What was that for?
Because you have to let them. You have to put that fear of God into them at a young age.
Yeah, you do.
Because when you're older, they still need to respect you. When they grown and that punch in the chest don't affect them no more. Believe me, I got a grown ass son. If I punch him in his chest, he gonna be like, Dad, look.
I don't want to fight you right now.
I'm grown, Dad. That don't work.
We getting arrested on the show, man, if you was a social worker.
As an old school social worker, I was like, hey man, great job. But as a social worker, like, look, maybe hit kids, can't pop the kid in the chest, like.
I'm like, okay.
I'm old school, man. I can't. I'm telling you, I probably should have been born when y'all was born. I was born in 87.
Hey, I went to school. Look, I went to W.W. White.
Okay.
Oh,
I went to W.W. White. At W.W. White, when I went to school, they still had the paddle. On my bus, when I rode the bus, when I went to East Central, because I went from the San Antonio, ISD, where Sam Houston was going to be the high school I went to. Then I went to East Central. When I went to East Central, the bus driver had a paddle. Now, I never got the paddle,
but you saw something.
but I seen the threat of the paddle.
And that was enough.
And actually, I think I did get it in elementary when I was at W.W. White.
Yeah, I never got the paddle, but so to answer your question, Darnell, possibility if we actually seen it, but we have on a cool, good job. On the social, like, hey, you can't be doing that, though.
But you know what though? I respect that hitting somebody in the chest because if you don't discipline your kid, they gonna end up in the pen.
Yeah, that's why
So what I told my wife one time is I'd rather see them crying here than crying in the jail cell.
Right.
Yeah.
Because life is gonna teach you if your parents or if you don't learn it at a young age. Life will teach you.
A very hard lesson.
And it'll teach you a hard lesson, and you don't want to learn it from life. You want to learn it, where you can know how to deal with it.
You gotta come back to the show, man.
Now I'm down.
Okay.
Definitely.
We got some rap.
We're gonna wrap it up though, but
Wrap it up, B. Do that.
what's next for that man Dwayne, man?
The next thing coming up with that man D Wayne and Good Visuals Productions is we're working on a sitcom right now. I've always wanted to write a comedy sitcom.
I would definitely watch it.
It's much like a family sitcom. Okay. So it's called The Odd Life of Shay Little.
Cool.
So it's going to be 5 episodes that will be premiering next year.
So kind of like Everybody Loves Chris or Hates Chris.
In the sense that it's a TV show, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So not quite like the concept.
Yeah.
But how do you? What program will you be on? Will it be on your website? Or?
Now that's still up to debate because so far in my career I have made films that have gone to the film circuit or the film festival circuit.
Right.
Where doing the premiere the other night online was kind of my first time where people that support me are able to see my work. So what I want to do with the sitcom is put it out there where people can see it. So
maybe like Quibi
YouTube.
Or...
Well, actually, Quibi just shut down.
Quibi just shut down.
Oh.
Quibi just shut down. Like 6 months it shut down.
As of yesterday, they just shut down after a $2 billion investment.
Yeah, it was very glitchy and all that stuff. So it shut. I
saw stuff that I wanted to that looked kind of interesting, but I was like, I don't pay for that.
I think the idea is good. Mm-hmm. Which what the ultimate thing was for. I know y'all got to rap.
Go ahead.
The ultimate thing with Quibi was they were trying to make a so as consumers we're used to the 30-minute and the hour-long programming. Right. Well, they were trying to make TV shows or sitcoms be 10 minutes to where you could watch it on a lunch break. Right. And they're trying to take advantage of the consumer market that is the YouTube crowd that needs stuff that's quick, fast, in a hurry consumer.
So kind of like the Cobra Kai series that they started making.
Well, that's on Netflix, I think, but it was
Netflix
10 minutes.
Now, but it started off.
Did it start on there?
It started off on YouTube.
YouTube,
actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But Quibi was its own thing, and But see, I think Quibi where it messed up at is, I think it's a good idea, in theory, but here's all the streaming services that get all the business, so everybody's looking over here, and Quibi tried to set up over here behind them. And they were trying to get people to turn around and look at them.
Hey, look at me.
And, they didn't, if they would have gone in more this, then they could have separated themselves later. But they tried to come in as their own thing and create this whole new thing. Americans they're used to what they're used to. They don't change very easily and very fast.
It takes a while. Quite a while.
So, man, this is the next podcast we're going to do. Ben has seen some pictures of kind of like reverse racism.
Yeah, it was. I was on Facebook. You see a lot of things on Facebook. That's where we get a lot of our ideas from. And it was what caught my eye was that it was these 4 white guys, and what caught my eye was that the black man was holding a rifle. He's holding this like this, like, all right, boss. And remember the guy who's like the gun line boss is like, you stick your dog to the line, it will be shot. Anyway, y'all was on my life, but the movie. But anyway, so it was, and when I look at the slaves, they were white.
The 4 white slaves.
And they were chained up. And then I started scrolling. I was like, what the hell? And then it showed the Asian women getting their feet done, and the white woman was, scrubbing her feet. So I'm like, what is going on here? And then I looked again, and then the last one really caught me. Was this little white girl. She's standing there. She's kind of looking around. There's a bunch of black baby dolls. I said, JP, we got to talk about this because this is why I was like.
But that's how it is. Now for black people, And
that's why those pictures were put together. That picture in particular with the white girl in front of all the black dolls. That was actually. I read the history on that picture. The photographer had set it up. I think that was shot in South Africa or it was used for propaganda in South Africa. I can't really remember which. But it was an artistic picture meant to prove a point. It wasn't a real picture. And actors like Tyrese have actually used that picture to say this is what is starting to happen in the world. And that's where you got to be careful with what white supremacy and how deep white supremacy gets. White supremacy is a mental disease.
Right.
And it's spread all the way across the world.
Okay.
It's not a white person disease. It's a mental illness of Caucasians. I don't have white supremacy. I can't catch it. But when you see images like that, it's the same argument as should we have the Confederate statues. When you don't see representation of yourself in a position that is empowering, then you will never think that you or somebody who looks like you can do that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's the whole reason why we say you need to take down the Confederate statue, because you're glorifying people who wanted people that look like us to not even have the same freedoms as you. So when you're celebrating that person, and this white kid is looking up at it saying, yeah, that person looks like me. Hell yeah.
But the
black kid is looking at it and they're like, well, damn. Well, what do you think about me?
Yeah.
And it creates mental stigmas from a young age that you'll never get over. You'll never be able to get over those stigmas.
It's just like the show we did, Black Panther versus Batman. And we were talking about how Black Panther basically gave black children a black superhero. Like, oh, I can be like him. Mm-hmm. I gotta be, what's his name? Peter something. Peter Parker. Peter Parker. I gotta be Peter Parker because I can be Black Panther. I ain't gotta be Superman. I can be Black Panther. Mm-hmm. I ain't gotta be Batman.
I can wear a mask with blonde hair.
Yeah, I ain't gotta wear a mask. I can be Black Panther.
You know what I think though? It's so beautiful about the NFL right now, and I want this to one day be about superheroes and everything. Is that in the NFL we can talk about Kyler Murray, we can talk about
Lamar Jackson,
and we could Dak Prescott.
Did you say Donovan McNabb?
McNabb, what's the other one? Hold on, bro. Hold on now.
I'm a Cowboys fan.
I'm just saying.
I was trying to wrap it up.
Big there.
I was trying to wrap it up.
Okay, my bad.
Sorry.
But let's forget the Eagles. Anyway, so we were going. I was going to say something, but what's so beautiful about the NFL, man, this quarterback situation, is that you can look at a black quarterback and a white quarterback, and you can actually criticize them or judge or praise them without using a black or white angle. And I think that's where we need to
you don't have to, you're not looking at their race, you're looking at what they can do.
So when I look at Mahomes, I don't look at a black person, a biracial person. I say, man, that dude is a dog. Man. You know what I mean? And that's beautiful.
And that's what we should grow to.
Right.
But I know we got to wrap because I actually got to go pick up.
Yes, please. Go. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I really do.
We are going to figure out a way to tag his website and his link so we can all watch his short film.
Goodvisuals.com. Visuals is spelled with a Z at the end. You can also find me on Instagram at thatmain. Main. Oh, I'm sorry. I just changed it. Instagram is Good Visuals as well. At Good Visuals with a Z at the end, and you can follow me on there.
Good visuals. Okay, I follow that man.
Yeah,
man. Respect. So we got JP's the five-time All-Star of the Semi-Auto-Pro. Hall of Fame ballot. Put that man. Respect that man.
I used to do it for the fat boys, I coach at the Bear
girls
County
love the Fat Boys, though.
Bad boys.
I know that.
Girls love the Fat Boys.
I know that.
I know medium size. It's on medium size. We got J-Net, the Asian sensation. We got D-Wayne.
That man,
D-Wayne.
Yes, sir.
Our special guest, and of course me, Ben the Awesome Newsome. So anything else you want to add? Let's wrap up, bro.
Man, I just when you find local people that's cool, like Dwayne, man, support them, man.
Let us know about them.
Let them know about them. Tell them about the shirt you're wearing.
Oh, so I love supporting San Antonio businesses, and the San Antonio business that I'm supporting right now is actually called Black America Clothing. I'll come a little closer so you can see the shirt. is Black America Clothing. See that? It's different for us. That's their tagline. So you already know.
So y'all go to that tagline, get them clothing, and don't be cheap. That's all I gotta say. $25.
You can find them on the website. You can look up Black America Clothing Line, and you'll find it.
It's not that much. You're gonna spend more on your blunts and your weed and excuse me, let me stop. Anyways, we out. We'll see you next time.
Family shows.